Good afternoon, everybody. It is January 21st, 2022. Man, I'm sliding into the finish on this one. I'll tell you what, Josh, if I get these podcasts up in time, I've made it as a podcaster as far as
I hear you, man.
This is Chi-Town and Charm City. I am Charm City, Ben Super. Across from me is Chi-Town, Josh Gators. Josh, how you doing, sir?
Doing well, man. Doing well. How you doing?
I'm doing great, dude. It's awesome. You know why I'm doing extremely well after this weekend? We're going to start with the game that I obviously picked correctly. I picked the San Francisco 49ers to beat the Dallas Cowboys and made you look like a silly person for picking the Cowboys and being duped by them. Once again, every single year we get duped by this team. So my first question to you is, there's been a lot of talk about alternate forms of energy that we're trying to discover to make our society much more greener. We won't be reliant on foreign powers for oil. You know, there's a lot of talk about how can we get off the grid? How can we make energy for ourselves? And I think that our government should seriously consider using the tears of Dallas Cowboys fans, because this weekend, they were flowing.
Oh,
did you see the clip of the girl with like 4 minutes left to go? And Jim Nantz is like, oh, well, it's a little early for that. I mean, she's like sobbing in the gym. But here's the thing, Josh, she knew.
She's a Cowboys fan.
She knew that their team was going to fucking do some stupid ass shit to lose the game like they do every single year. What's up with this team, man? Why is it? You know, in this case, it was the kneel down at the end of it. First off, did you like that play? Did you like the QB draw?
I think it was the right choice, but once again, choice and how it plays out are two different things, especially once again, when you're talking about the Cowboys. It just makes them look like they're incompetent. It makes them look like they don't know what they're doing. And then you're 12-5 and you end up playing like you were 5-12 in the one game that can really take you to the next level. So if we're being serious, I'm really upset because I was hoping that Dak would be a little bit more of a leader in a sense. And it felt like he didn't know what the game plan was going into the fourth quarter and even more so into crunch time when you get to the last 5 minutes, like you said. So I'm a big proponent, huge proponent of using Cowboy Tears, Cowboy fan tears.
It's on the
for
table,
a new source
right?
of energy. Absolutely.
No one likes nuclear, so why don't we just use theirs? Some of those clips, I mean, did you see? Okay, and here's another. I don't like plugging ESPN a whole lot, and I haven't watched First Take in forever, but I was just like, oh man, Stephen A. Smith is gonna fucking go off. His intro to First Take after the Cowboys lost was an unbelievable 5 minutes of television. I laughed. He had the fucking hat, the Stetson hat on with the cigar and the boots, and he's going, howdy.
The dance and everything.
What'd I tell you? He goes up to Michael Irvin, slapping him on the shoulder. Michael Irvin can't say anything because he's like, fuck, he's right.
The look on Michael Irvin's face was absolutely priceless. When I tell you, you know he wanted to say something, you know he wanted to reach out, and it's just, I'm a Cowboys fan through and through. And even more so for him, he was a former player. It's got to be upsetting. It's got to be disappointing. But no, some of the greatest television I've seen in a while. And you know what? I'll just chalk it up to the Stephen A. Smith curse. That's what's going on with the Cowboys.
Yeah, it has to be, right? And on the flip side of that, with the 49ers, Jimmy G's performance, I guess, it's like in some ways, yeah, he got a playoff win over Dallas. He went into Dallas with a fucked up thumb, and he was able to hold on. I mean, really, the end of that game was completely different than how it started, right? Like they got out to like a 13-0 lead. And then in the second half, the Cowboys started coming back. They got some big plays. It's got me worried for Jimmy G, though, because he played really like a subpar performance, and he barely got touched the entire game. You know, it'd be one thing if there was all this pressure in his face, but he never got sacked, and he still threw 2 picks. I don't know. I guess that's the problem with Jimmy G, right?
A, and then B, I think his performance really shows how bad the Cowboys are, especially in crunch time. They're not clutch. They're not able to secure the win when necessary, when most necessary. And it makes Jimmy G looks like he had a great game. And then when you said you look back at it, he's still average, if not middle of the line, above average at that. So I think that we'll get into it, but I think that this San Fran team is just strong enough to beat this kind of Dallas team. and not strong enough to go to the next level and actually have some type of success. Once again, I'm a little disappointed in Dallas. I really thought that this year would be different. I'm no Cowboys fan, but I think that they think the same thing every year. So it's about that time for us to throw the hope out of the window for the Cowboys, I believe, because as long as you are able to go 12-5, but still make it into the wild card and not beat a San Francisco team that's not that strong, you're not gonna go anywhere. You're not gonna have too much success, unfortunately.
The amount of "we still them boys" will be back next year significantly lower after this loss.
Significantly.
Just,
I can't get on the bandwagon. I can't.
Yeah, it's just one of those things. And then going back to Jimmy G, do you think that he did enough to keep his job? Do you think he's still going to be out shopping? Do you think the 49ers are going to shop him out? Like, I don't know if he did enough to – it'll be really something when he goes – and if he goes into Lambeau and wins. I think that would be a bigger win for him in this case because his performance didn't really stand out a whole lot.
And Green Bay is always going to be a litmus test in the NFL. You're talking about a predominant 12, 13 win team every season, especially in the era of Aaron Rodgers. It's one of those things where, yeah, you can beat a Dallas team that's good enough to get to where they are, but yeah, you're going to get creamed in the next round. These are the games that the teams that weren't supposed to be there got eliminated, and they got eliminated by a lot. And now we're going into one of my favorite seasons in football, the divisional round. So it'll be a really good matchup seeing the history with San Francisco and Green Bay, but I think that there's going to be a different result this year. So
I love that you brought that up because on the AFC side, Flock Squawk, I asked the same question. I was like, what's the deal with all these blowouts? Like on the AFC side, you had the Bills blowing out the Patriots, the Chiefs dog walked the Steelers. On this side, you had the Philly Eagles game that we're going to talk about later. That was a blowout. Is it just because there are more? My co-host on Flock Squawk said it's because they just have more teams and they've added more seeds. Now you are in a position where a 7 seed that wouldn't have made the playoffs, 2 or 3 years ago is now playing the 2 seed who last year would have had a first round bye, or 2 years ago would have had a first round bye. So those two, when they butt heads with one another, that the 2 seed is going to win and win big. For the 49ers, something that really surprised me, they kept converting on third down and the Cowboys just couldn't stop it. They just could not stop them on third down. And they have that guy, Elijah Mitchell, who, what's up with the 49ers just getting these awesome running backs out of nowhere? Ricky Ostert showed up. He was out of nowhere. Now this guy, I can't imagine a more painful way of wrapping up something that you thought you were at least going to the divisional round. You probably, knowing Cowboys fans, they always think they're going to win the Super Bowl. But if you ask them probably realistically, I think they could tell you, yeah, we can make an NFC championship game with that roster.
It takes me back to my Bears when we were in the wild card against the Eagles. We were 12-4. And the Packers were just that much better at 13 wins. So that's one of the reasons why I love the wild card weekend is anything can happen. And like you said, rarely do you have the 2 seed beating the 7 or the 7 seed beating the 2 seed. But they're great matchups nonetheless.
Well, and it's an indictment on the NFC East too, right? The NFC East was terrible this year. The Cowboys, we said it in the last podcast. I was like, maybe their record's a little inflated because they're beating up on Washington and they're beating up on the Giants twice a year, and they're beating up on the Eagles. Made a turnaround later in the season, but early on, people weren't talking about the Eagles a whole lot. Where do they go from here? I don't. Can Dallas get any better than they were this year? This just seems like a blown opportunity to me.
It's a lot of questions. It's a lot of things that are up in the air for Dallas. Like you said, this is one of the best seasons that they have. I've had in a while. Once again, you're making it to the divisional round, so you're good enough. But you're not good enough for the teams that are going to end up in the playoffs. And yeah, I think there's a front office issue. I think there's always going to be a front office issue as long as Jerry Jones is your owner. But you look at the history that they had with Jason Garrett, middle of the line, average. 12-5 is a big thing for the Cowboys. And I personally, I thought that this was going to be a different year for them. And then they turn around and lose in the most Cowboy fashion possible.
There's some other things that I noticed in this game. Nick Bosa went out with a concussion.
Oh,
so they don't know if he's going to be available for the Green Bay game. And I think you need that guy on your line to be available. They've had guys step up, like Eric Armstead has played better here recently.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
They did a number on the Cowboys. The pass game didn't get going, and the run game didn't really get going either. And I just think it was a real lack of preparation on Dallas's part. That's what really sticks out to me for this game. I thought they should have played much crisper. I was shocked that CeeDee Lamb didn't have a catch until way later on in the game. I'm like, what in the fuck are you? Isn't that dude your number one? Well, I don't know. They got a lot of guys on that squad, but isn't he a guy that you would want to target more as the game got early? I thought that was a mistake by them.
You have all of these weapons. Are you going to be able to utilize them? Are you going to be able to get the ball to CeeDee Lamb? Are you going to be able to get the ball to Cooper? And like you said, I think that the San Francisco 49ers were just slightly more prepared than the Dallas Cowboys. I think that's what we were looking at here. I don't think they had a spectacular game plan, and they did what they needed to do to win against Dallas. But yeah, we will definitely see how prepared they show up against Green Bay in Green Bay. That is something that I'm looking forward to watching.
Oh, not only that, but I have statistics for you, my friend. When we break down the divisional games, I'm going to be at you at light speed. Okay, here we go. So is there anything else on this game that you wanted to cover?
The Nick Bosa piece, I think that's a huge asterisk moving forward for the 49ers. As big of a piece as he is, as intricate as they are in terms of defense, I'm not sure that they'll be able to keep up with the game of Aaron Rodgers and how he likes to move the ball down the field. So whether or not they'll be able to put pressure on Aaron is going to be a big piece, and he's the guy that you put pressure on Aaron Rodgers with. So we shall see. We shall see.
I can't wait to make an argument for the 49ers. I have a
absolutely. I said this is the week where I am the biggest 49ers fan ever. So.
Yeah, you are. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, sure. Let's move on to the Los Angeles game. LA beats the Cardinals 34-11. This reminded me a lot of the Bills New England game on the AFC side. You had the Cardinals, who they only have so many plays in their playbook with the air raid offense. Without DeAndre Hopkins in the lineup, the Cardinals are severely limited by what they, and it's shocking because you have Kyler Murray as a quarterback. And Kyler Murray's out there dinking and dunking, and he can't get the ball downfield to anybody. And I just think that's a scheme thing. I think Cliff Kingsbury has a playbook where it's like, we're going to get the ball to the guy who has the best hands on our team. I mean, he swings games, Josh. We remember what happened when Buffalo came to visit last year, and D-Hop catches a Hail Mary in the end zone from Kyler Murray with three guys all over him. Like, that's the kind
over three defenders.
Yeah, I mean, it's absurd. That's the guy that was missing in this offense, and it showed. They only got 11 points. It can't be understated how important DeAndre Hopkins is, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And not only that, but you're coming off of a, I don't know, probably 2 or 3, maybe longer week deficit without a lot of your key pieces like J.J. Watt. We talk about the emphasis that D-Hop has on the offense. Look at the defense and where J.J. Watt does for them in terms of getting the pressure on the other quarterback. Matt Stafford looked like he was playing a scrimmage game, and the Cardinals looked like they showed up to watch. That's what it looked like to me.
Absolutely. What a fucking disappointment. This was a team that was one of the top teams in the entire NFL for most of the season. There was a run there where it was just like, wow, the Cardinals are 8-0, 9-0. Like, holy shit, they're just
undefeated for a large part of the season, going into the double-digit win type of efficiency. And it's really shocking to see this Cardinals team that was able to beat the Rams earlier in the season, mind you, like you said, with the weapons that they needed. They went into this game once again completely unprepared, and I don't know that it was on them, and just more so in terms of injuries and lack of availability. So I like the Rams. They are a complete team. They are strong. It'll be interesting to see what they're able to do against Tampa Bay. I'll tell you that much.
Kyler played like dog shit. He
Absolutely.
Threw 2 picks in this game. It's like he's so on and off. Like, I don't understand it, because in some ways I look at him and I naturally compare him to Lamar Jackson.
Absolutely.
And there are some things I love about Kyler more than I even like about Lamar. He won at the highest level every single place that he played. He's a lot like Joe Burrow in that sense. You know, Joe Burrow dominated Ohio football and then college, and then you had Kyler, who dominated Texas football and then moved on to Oklahoma and did great things, right? So
absolutely.
Why does he have games where he's just flat? And the reason is he can't heave the ball downfield to his favorite target. DeAndre Hopkins is the linchpin of this offense. And I think it was proven against the Rams. They just didn't have anything going. And Matt Stafford, good for him for getting a playoff win. Kind of a weird one. They didn't ask him to throw a whole lot. He only threw the ball 17 times.
202 yards in that 17 attempts and super efficient, like you said.
And he didn't turn the ball over. That's been the big criticism of Matt Stafford this season is like he turns the ball over and he's a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde type of quarterback where he can have a game where he throws for 4 touchdown passes and then turn around and give you a 1 touchdown, 3 interception game the next week. And it's like,
absolutely.
Then that tends to not bode well in the playoffs. But I mean, it didn't seem to affect him against the Cardinals. I wonder if that's just the familiarity of him playing them twice already. Do you think that has something to do with it?
I think there's a lot of factors. Once again, being at home, playing against the team that you played, twice this season, having success before, knowing the game plan when they were at their strongest. I think there are a lot of factors for the Rams to win this game, but I think that, like we said before in last week's podcast, we were able to pretty much predict this win for the Rams, seeing as though how the Cardinals show up in the last couple of games in the season. Matt Stafford, really great game, but like you said, didn't throw too much, super efficient. Over 200 yards, 2 touchdowns, where he was not asked to do too much. So, you have a systematic dismantling of the Cardinals, unfortunately, at the hands of the Rams. And now you're looking at the Rams gaining momentum, having to play Tampa Bay. It's going to make for a very, very interesting game.
And then you have the referee issue rear its ugly head in this game too. Budda Baker gets absolutely leveled. I watched that on the broadcast. They were still talking about it on the broadcast, and I'm like, do you see that guy's arm sticking
extremely
up straight?
horrific.
I'm like, that dude is knocked the fuck out. And then they go to commercial, and I knew it was bad because the commercial break took forever to get through. And I'm just like, oh, geez, I really hope Budda Baker's okay. They had the card out when they came back. There seemed to be some chippiness, and that's where the referees came in. Where was the taunting play? Where was the taunting call? He literally stands over the guy and does like a finger wag or something like that. I got to go back and look at it, but it's clear that this guy is unconscious on the field. I saw it immediately. I know what a dude. I've seen enough highlight reels of big hits in the NFL, and I've seen enough UFC fights to know when a dude is, to quote Smokey, knock the fuck out. You know what I mean? Like, that was unreal, man. I couldn't believe that there wasn't when they looked back at the replay, taunting was a point of emphasis this year, and they didn't throw the flag for that. They threw it on a holding call or something.
I talk about the factors that change or make or break a game. The refs not essentially doing what they're supposed to do, and they've been doing it the entire season on itty bitty bullshit calls, if you will. You miss an opportunity to really penalize a player who, I don't know, I'm going to play devil's advocate. I'm not sure that he was able to understand that he was knocked out until he realized what was going. Being a competitor, being in the heat of the moment, I can get that. But unfortunately, it's still a scary moment. And it's really scary to see how much technology has gone into making these players safer, making the helmet safer, and this stuff is still happening. So hopefully Budda Baker's all right. Hopefully there's no long-standing issues from that. But yeah, very, very scary situation. And yeah, the refs dropped the ball on that one, I do believe.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you bring up the tech with helmets. You know, the NFL has spent hundreds of millions of dollars trying to clear their name of all this CTE stuff and trying to make the helmets safer and all these other protocols that they've put in place. But sometimes you're playing a contact sport. Shit happens, man. I mean, you just caught him. You know how you catch a guy at the right spot at the right time and the lights go out? That's what happened there. And then it makes me wonder, going back to the referees, do you think these guys should be full-time employees? Do you think that would help the situation?
To be quite honest with you, Ben, I have gone back and forth with you as well, with a number of people trying to figure out what is going on with the referees. I understand that you have a fairly serious job in terms of making sure the game is played out fair and competitively, but to miss some of the calls that end up being these highlight plays on shows like SportsCenter and in First Take, it's like, what are we doing? You know, this is your job. What are we doing? How did we miss that? So I don't know. I don't know if giving them more responsibility when they've been showing us that they're not able to manage what they've had, I don't know if that's the answer. I don't know, though, because I don't referee in the NFL. I can't imagine how serious of a job that is, once again, playing devil's advocate. But you have to make sure that you make these types of calls, especially as the stakes in the game get a little higher. So,
and there were just too many calls that were influenced by the refs this weekend. I mean, you had the fans whistle for the Bengals game, and then you had this, we just talked about the Dallas game. I guess he was out of position and he had to run 40-yard sprint down the field to catch up with Dak or what. I feel like if you made these guys full-time employees, a lot of this stuff goes away because
absolutely
your sole job is just the NFL and you just study the rule book. You go through and break things down. This part-time employees stuff, it doesn't work because the game is way too fast now. It's way too physical now. Like there's so many rules. You need to be a full-time employee, I think, in order for some of these things to go away. So that's where I'm at with that.
I'm glad you on that note. I'm glad you brought up the Dallas game because I'm sitting here watching the game live, and I'm sitting here thinking, wouldn't the ref run with the play so he can make sure he's at the line of scrimmage?
Right. Like, why was he so far out of position? I don't know. I always sometimes you see videos on YouTube of refs that are faster than some of the players, and they're hauling down the field. And your OBJ has scored 6 touchdowns in the past 8 games since he's come over to the Rams. Baker Mayfield's done with the Browns, right?
I think so.
He gives them flexibility in their offense, which is something he never did with Cleveland. They only wanted him to be a wide receiver, and when Baker wasn't throwing him the ball, he got pissed off. And now Sean McVay's gone out of his way to make it so that he's involved in the offense. He's happy, and he's in Los Angeles. It's the best move for Odell Beckham possible. And it may have gotten the quarterback in Cleveland in question, but they'd have to get a veteran to replace him. A Russell Wilson and Aaron Rodgers. They're not going to find him in the draft. And I don't think Cleveland has I don't think their fan base has the patience for that anymore. So
unfortunately, they are in a situation where, they're going to get somebody's scraps, somebody's maybe 1 or 2 year quarterback that had a legacy somewhere else. And hopefully they see some success in that 1 or 2 seasons. But they look like they're at the drawing board or back to the drawing board for me. I look back in your notes as it pertains to the Rams and the Cardinals. You were asking me if you were missing anything from this game. That was the one anecdote that I had, seeing as though that there's a link between the Rams and the Browns with Odell Beckham Jr. being on both squads this season. So the only thing that I can think of is the freedom that the Rams are able to play with when they're completely healthy, and they're not even completely healthy when they're missing Woods on the wide receiver roster. This is a good place for OBJ. This is a great place for OBJ,
and he's got a great shot at making the Super Bowl, right? I mean,
absolutely,
it's the year for the Rams to do it. They're going to be hosting it. I keep hammering that. Keep hammering that bell. Okay, I think we've covered that game pretty well.
Absolutely.
The next one, the Bucs defeat the Philadelphia Eagles at home, 31-15. We said this on the last pod. The Eagles were the good, bad team that was in the playoffs this year. It makes sense. They were the 7 seed, right? I mean, it's not like we were expecting a whole lot from the Eagles to begin with. They got hot towards the end of the year, and they started making noise, and other teams sort of fell off, and the Eagles just kind of snuck in there. I mean, at one point, I had the Washington football team as the 7 seed. And that was like week 14, week 15. I mean, I didn't see the Eagles coming at all. But they show up in this game, and they played like absolute dog shit. Jalen Hurts threw 2 interceptions, including a brutal one. Did you see the one that he threw? It was I don't know whether he underthrew it or the defender just jumped the route. It was going into the end zone. The safety just slides over and intercepts it right in front of him. Could have been a touchdown.
And
it's a pick.
Exactly.
It reminded me of the Mac Jones throw to Micah Hyde when Micah Hyde intercepts it in the end zone. It almost happened in the exact same place. That was absolutely brutal. Brady, he threw 2 touchdowns. He's been cerebral, as he always is, 46 years old, and he's won a wild card game. The Eagles never really climbed back into the game. And then Jalen Reagor, the wide receiver for the Eagles, he had a fumble that was turned over by the Bucs. He's always going to get compared to Justin Jefferson. Poor guy. Like, he's the one who got drafted ahead the Vikings, Justin Jefferson falls to the Vikings, and look at it's just night and day between these two, right? I don't know.
Absolutely. And I can't expect the Eagles. First of all, we're talking about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You're talking about Tom Brady. We're talking about the legacy that he has. And it's very easy to say, oh, it's Tom Brady, he's going to win. It's bad for Jalen Reagor, unfortunately, if we're going to pick out people because the situation at hand. But as a whole, I don't think that the Eagles will be ready to compete in the regular season or the postseason for the next couple of years, even with Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that the Eagles I'm not saying that they had a totally bad performance. They sacked Brady 4 times.
Not at all.
Not at all. He's one of the least sacked In fact, he is the least sacked quarterback in the league. I think he had like 33 sacks this year, and that was by far the fewest. I think of Lamar Jackson playing. That dude at some point takes 4 or 5 sacks a game sometimes, and it's like,
yikes.
Crazy. Yeah, but that's just because of his style.
Absolutely.
He's trying to run around and do all this other squirrely stuff. That was okay, but I mean, what did we expect from a team that had not beaten a playoff team all year? The 4 sacks kind of concerns me because they play Aaron Donald this week, and Tristan Wirfs got hurt in this game. And the guy that they brought out to replace Tristan Wirfs was not good at all.
No.
And that's concerning. You do not want Tom Brady taking sacks. Even the way he does it, you're still losing plays. I mean, he just kind of flops down, and that's the end of it. But I guess that was a pretty big. And then Mike Evans went off. 9 catches, 117 yards, and a touchdown. He's the number 1 guy there, right? I mean,
absolutely.
Godwin out and Antonio Brown on hiatus. Mike Evans is your guy.
For certain. I really want to hammer home the point, like you said, Tom Brady being the least sacked in this game, 4 sacks that he took, and the effect that Tristan Wirfs and the entire offensive line has on him being able to be protected. You really want to make sure that he is, whoever the replacement is for Tristan Wirfs, is as prepared as possible because, you're talking about another level of competition from that first string to the second string. And, you saw the difference between Tristan Wirfs and his replacement. So I can't even think of his name as of right now.
His name either. It didn't even matter.
And I think that's another factor. That's another piece. Not saying that these guys need to get regular season reps because you want to put the best team forward every week. But there is a large discrepancy in between the skill set of the starting 5 and any of their backups.
And I'll say one thing about the Eagles too. Their skills guys suck. I mean, they've been pretty bad for a couple of years. I like Devonta Smith. He's a big improvement over a lot of the guys that they've had on that offense, but
for sure.
Take a Whiteside, like some of these guys I never even Goddard, their tight end I like a lot. Dallas Goddard.
Goddard is nice.
But all of these other guys, I'm just like, I haven't even heard of half of them. It's just a mess over there.